Hello, everyone. It's the ReQuest. It's me, Captain Logan, and joining me tonight, as always, for another ReQuest, it's Austin, the Day Ghost. And we're back to movies tonight. Austin and I are going to be talking about a really depressing psychological thriller from Netflix that came out in 2020, starring Tom Holland and Robert Pattinson and lots of superhero movie actors, but who's surprised? Because at this point, if you didn't work on a superhero movie, that's the shocking thing.
Well, we got Bill Skarsgård, who hasn't yet, but he's one of the rumored people for Lex Luthor, so
Oh yeah,
maybe.
yeah. So that's probably coming.
Yeah.
This one was requested on Patreon by GB Rogo, who is there in the comments watching live right now. He says, thanks for reviewing this film. Well, thank you for requesting it. And I remember hearing like little rumblings about this when it came out, but I didn't know anything at all about it. Really all I heard about this was the thing that you get occasionally with streaming movies with big stars that have been in like a big franchise for a long time and haven't gotten a chance to really like spread their wings and do very much else. It's like, oh, Tom Holland's doing something that's not Spider-Man or some other big franchise star vehicle thing for Sony. And I don't remember if I knew that what's his face, Winter Soldier, was in this.
Oh, Sebastian Stan.
Sebastian Stan, yeah.
He does a lot more like indie stuff though, so that's not too surprising with him.
Yeah, because originally it was supposed to be Chris Evans, and maybe when I first heard about this project, it was when he was still attached to it, Austin, because I remember there being some kind of like period piece that he was connected with, and maybe it's some other thing that actually did come out. But I'm wondering if this was the movie. Like, I'm wondering if at one point I knew that he and Tom Holland were both supposed to be in a thing, and then that didn't end up actually happening. But he
That's
actually,
possible.
when he had to bow out of the project because of scheduling conflicts with whatever else he was working on right then, I wonder if it was Lightyear. He
So my mind went to that Russo's movie he did, but that can't be because that came out last year.
Oh, okay. He suggested that they recast with Sebastian Stan, which was probably a good move. Like he was right for that part, I think. Not to get too ahead of ourselves, but
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think physically, it makes more sense to have Sebastian Stan in that role than Chris Evans. I don't know if you had that when you found out he was supposed to be that guy.
you think he's a little bit too built for that role?
A little bit, yeah. I think Sebastian Stan's kind of like schlubby look in this movie works a little bit better.
Yeah, maybe you would have had to use the effects that we had in the Captain America movies to make him look real skinny.
Or if they did like the fat Thor thing, like he had a fat suit.
Yeah. What I was kind of surprised to find out with this, we'll get into premise and synopsis here in a second, but like I said, psychological thriller. It's set in the 50s and into the 60s, and it's very violent and bleak and depressing. It is produced by Jake Gyllenhaal, and it feels like the kind of movie he would do. Like, once I found that out, I was like, well, actually, I mean, Stan does a good job, but that could have been Gyllenhaal.
Yeah, and if it was earlier in his career, he could have been Tom Holland.
Yeah, I thought so too, but he's got to, like Spider-Man, be young enough that you buy him at least for a couple of minutes in high school. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
because he's supposed to be about high school age, is he not?
Yeah, I think he turns 18 in that birthday scene.
That's right.
So it's like he's probably like just finishing high school or just past it.
I read up a little bit on the novel this is based on, and I haven't read it because I just watched this movie last night and just found out that this was based on a novel. But in the book, I'll mention a couple of changes here and there, just the things that I found out for the like page and a half synopsis I read of the book. But apparently, Tom Holland's character, when he gets the Luger, the gun for his birthday, is 15 in the book, so they could have cast even younger.
Oh, okay.
But I guess with the time spread, maybe it makes more sense to start a little bit older. But I guess not a ton of time passes after we introduce him. Like, more of that is the what plays in the movie like back matter with his father and everything, which in the book it sounds like is a little bit more of the novel, and it's not as flashbacky maybe is sort of the sense I get.
Hmm. Yeah, because when I was watching it this time, I was like, you know what? I think I just like movies that are very novel-like, and
Yeah.
this isn't based on anything, but it's very novel-like, and I like that. And then I looked it up, and I was like, oh, it just is a novel. And then I found out the narrator is the writer of the book, and I was like,
Right.
that's so cool.
Yeah, it's really neat.
Hmm.
And he sounds, first of all, that guy should be doing audiobooks. Like
Yeah,
no doubt. You know who he sounds like. I'm having a hard time with actor names tonight. Who is the elderly cowboy guy in Ghost Rider?
that's exactly what I was going
He
to bring
sounds
up.
like him.
Sam Elliott.
Sam
Yeah.
Elliott. There you go.
There were
Yeah.
times when I was like, is this Sam Elliott? No, I don't think so. But
But yeah, he should be doing more stuff. But also, his voice sounds exactly like what I would expect the writer of this material to sound like.
yeah, definitely.
And of course, an old man wrote this.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, and this book's not even that old. I think I read it was from 2012, I think it was
11.
published.
Yeah.
Oh, 11, okay.
Yeah, it's just over a decade old.
Mhm.
I'm considering reading it.
So am I. When I saw it was a book, I was like, okay, I definitely have to pick this up at some point.
Yeah, I was intrigued enough, and I'm wondering if the story is more effective in prose.
Possibly, I
And
don't know.
I think the movie is good, but there are some things that are truncated a little bit. Again, just from what I read with the synopsis of the novel, that made me go, okay, some of this might be a little bit more, you know, like easier to appreciate and to get what the narrative is driving at, really, in a novel. And obviously, you get the clear comparisons between when you have adaptation. Everybody always says the book is better. This is a conversation that is boring and pointless and not worth having because we all know what the talking points with this, right? Where novels have a lot more time to, really flesh things out and give you a slow burn with things. And the one time this movie was criticized by critics that didn't care for it, and I actually didn't really have a problem with the pacing or how long it was, personally.
Yeah, so I remember when this came out and just feeling like, okay, this got bad reviews because it's incredibly dark and depressing, and it's the beginning of September 2020, and nobody wants to see that right now. I think a large part of the critical backlash came down to that.
Oh, I didn't even think of that.
But
Right time of year,
who
but
knows?
wrong month. Maybe wait for October or November.
One, a year that isn't like the worst year ever.
That too. Yeah.
Because I feel like at the time I remember hearing a lot of people be like, well, this was good, but like, I want to watch this right now. Like, I want to watch something that maybe doesn't make me feel like crap.
A little bit more uplifting. Yeah.
Mm.
And unfortunately, there's more of this kind of thing than not these days. Like, a lot of movies and TV shows are, very adult and bleak and like to show, the worst of human depravity. Not to say that there's not anything wholesome or anything lighthearted or, fun and whimsical, but would you agree with me when I say that? That like now that these days, I mean, there's lots and lots of reasons for it, but especially because a lot of you don't get as much censorship on streaming, and it's more acceptable to tell the really hard hitting rough and tumble kind of stories, and we're not thinking as much about like families and children with entertainment in general, except for some things that go in the movie theater. That there's just more of this because it sells better.
I'm not sure. I don't know. Like I don't feel like that, but maybe.
See, I always hesitate saying that because I don't know if my perspective is skewed.
Hmm.
All I know is too many of the things that I watch that I really like, I cannot show my family.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. Well, and then obviously we have different perspectives on that, in that I'm not necessarily going to be thinking about like, oh, I couldn't show this to a kid or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that we're definitely looking at it from different perspectives.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, I say that with a giant question mark. I don't even know if I'm right about it, which is why I asked you that question.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm not sure. I feel like I need to like sit down and think about it, because like at least in terms of like dark and depressing, like this movie I think really hit me at the time and now, but like I don't really feel this with most movies. coming out anyways.
Which is interesting because I honestly didn't have. I had an interesting experience with this, Austin. I didn't have a hard time getting through it at all,
Mhm.
and I didn't even find myself going, like this is well acted, it's well written, but I never want to watch it again. Like I actually could have turned right around and given it a second watch if I had had the time, which I sort of wanted to do and wish I had been able to, because I think this is one of those kind of two viewing required sorts of movies.
I can see that because I liked
And
it
you
the
saw it
first time.
twice, and so you can speak to that, I'm sure.
Yeah, and I liked it better a second time. There was a lot more stuff that clicked second time, I think. But in terms of that, like, yeah, I never had that either. Like, it was always this is a good movie. Like, it's definitely a downer, but like, I'd watch it. It's no Blonde, which is just nothing but like hitting you with a stick the entire time, and it's like the worst film ever. It's that Marilyn Monroe movie that came out last year, if you don't know.
I didn't remember what the title was, but you did tell me that that was bad not to watch it, because I was curious about it, and you were like, yeah, don't watch that.
Well, DJ goes into Discord and he's like, "Yeah, I watched like 20 minutes of Blonde. Yep, nope, not finishing that." And I was like, "Huh, I'm gonna go watch it now."
That's
Yeah,
hilarious.
it was bad. It was, yeah.
I could see asking the question, with the story that's being told here, does it need to be as bleak and, for lack of a better word, relentless as it is? I don't even know if I like relentless, but more just, could there maybe have been one or two more, like, not awful, depraved characters in this world? I have a little bit of. I find this really interesting. I'm very curious to try to examine it and talk about it with you, Austin. I don't, at the end of the day, 100% know what I think it's getting at, which is why I want to give it another viewing. Beyond the surface level, it's it's kind of neat to see all these like disparate characters and relationships and things all come together by the end of a story through a singular character when at first you're being introduced to things. And this is why it's kind of second viewing is required, right? You're watching all these things be introduced to you, and you go, I don't know why I'm looking at this right now, and I don't know why these people are going to matter, and hopefully all of this will come together by the end. And it's
Especially that couple.
yeah, you have no idea why you're watching the serial killer couple. We'll talk about them. I don't think that was communicated as well as it could have been, but you're. But by the time you get to the end of the film, you realize that you're looking at a movie that is kind of about coincidences to some degree, and about just a kid who with down on real hard luck, which is interesting that it's Tom Holland who played Spider-Man, and that character has not had enough of that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It feels almost like Tom Holland should be cast as Spider-Man based on this film. That happened already.
It's really funny, right? Like the big thing everybody complains about at the MCU Spider-Man, you go and you watch this and you're like, oh, he would be really good at that. Like, why don't we let him do that?
Wouldn't it be great if we had that?
Yeah, no, exactly.
His performance reminded me, and these are very different movies, but I mean, this is also a dark and real sad movie, but it's about different things, but also very very much about religion too. But what was the name of that film that we reviewed with Garfield?
Silence?
Yes, his performance reminded me a little bit of Garfield in Silence.
Oh, interesting. I didn't think about that while watching this, but that is funny.
I went in that headspace right away with the war stuff at the beginning, even though Holland
okay.
wasn't even there yet. And then once Holland showed up and he starts giving this this real what is the word I'm looking for? Just like serious and I don't know. I don't know what word I'm looking for. But anyway, intense, I guess. He had the same sort of intensity that Garfield had.
If Spider-Man is his Marty McFly, because that's obviously what he's looking at with that performance, this is Marty McFly if he grew up in that Biff world from Back to the Future too.
In the dystopian alternate present of Back to the Future too.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. AMC says Tom Holland was just sick of playing passive and agreeable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which I feel like everything he's done outside of obviously like the big tentpole stuff, because there's obviously like Uncharted and that Pixar
I was gonna
movie.
say that's what it looked like he was doing in Uncharted.
But I feel
I
like
didn't see that, but
whenever he does like indie stuff, it's always trying to like spread his wings a little bit more, and then critics,
he's picking challenging projects.
yeah, and then critics either don't like them or they're mixed on them, like with this one.
Like with this one, was he a stage actor at all? Because it feels like he's picking
I don't know.
plays made into movies. And I was actually somewhat, I guess I shouldn't have been. I was a little surprised to find that this was a book and not a play, because it felt like a play to me.
Oh, this would make a really good play.
Right?
Yeah, I didn't have that thought until you just said it, but this would make a really good play.
And then and then I thought about the voiceovers, and I was like, well, I mean, that just sounds like prose right out of a novel.
Mhm.
And that is a good way to adapt a thing like this, where you can kind of cheat in not an uncinematic way even, and bring in some of the description that you would have in a novel. I was gonna say some of the internal monologue, but this as a speaker is third person omniscient rather than limited, so he's not in any one character's head.
Mhm. Yeah, they do that a lot to just kind of expand what characters are thinking of in the moment, as well as just like background information.
It's effective. I'd like to see it more often. It also gives it a bit of a timeless feel. That's a thing I feel like I remember seeing more in movies from, like, I don't know, 40, 50 years ago.
Yeah. Well, I
But
feel
but
like that's the
movies
type of
like
thing.
but movies like this, like
Yeah.
kind of small town dramas where characters are, real flawed and making a lot of mistakes and hurting each other. And
Yeah, or it would be in like Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn or something.
yeah, good
That kind
call.
of like literary adaptation. Absolutely.
I also found myself like I had a lot of Stephen King vibes with this. I don't know if you had that.
I didn't, but that is interesting. I can kind of see just now that you said that where you would have that. Like I feel like
It made me wish more Stephen King novels were adapted this way.
I did have that thought. I did think it be fun if we did like Stephen King narrations in some of his adaptations
Yeah.
when it would make sense to do so.
But
Uh
obviously, just
yeah.
but sorry, but the other thing is just adapting the stories a little straighter.
Mhm. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Because this, I followed the book pretty closely, with with a couple of major exceptions. Like Roy is disposed of very early in the movie compared to the book, apparently,
Oh,
and
okay.
he goes in the exact same way. We haven't even done a synopsis yet. We got to do that.
I was just thinking that, yeah.
Yeah, we've gotten way ahead of ourselves. Why don't you talk a little bit about what the movie is about? We'll spoil things. So if you haven't seen the film and you're curious about it, watch it before you listen to the rest of this. But I want to make sure that we really break down the plot and have a good enough understanding of everything, because it's somewhat involved.
It is. No, it's definitely one of those movies where there's a ton of moving pieces and you have to really trust that it's going to catch them, and I think ultimately it does.
For the most part, it does. The main things it loses are just a couple of places where I don't I I don't fully understand character motivations, or I don't think the motivations are as interesting as they could have been, or as apparently they were in the book.
Okay.
But we could talk about that after you tell us what actually happens.
Yeah, so this movie, it has. So I'm like really bad with names. So a lot with movies like this, where it's all big name people, it's sometimes easier to just be like, Tom Holland, you know. So Bill Skarsgård, he comes back from the war, and he was very traumatized during the war, and it kind of ruined his sense of
Although I
religion.
can help you with character names, because more of them are sticking with me with this movie than with some other things. His name is
Yeah,
Willard.
that's right. It's Willard. Yeah. Okay. I'm just bad with names in general. But anyway, and there's like a billion characters. Uh, so he comes
It
back
could have
from
been
the.
worse, I guess, but yeah,
That, that is
there's a
true.
number of characters.
That is true. He meets a woman in a diner, and the two of them go off, and they have a kid who is Tom Holland, and the woman that his mom wanted him to get with also has a baby, and she ends up dying, and the baby goes off with his mom, who kind of becomes like the Aunt May figure, I guess you could say. And then Bill Skarsgård's wife dies of cancer, and then he kills himself. So then Tom Holland also moves in with that grandma, and then he and his now stepsister, they grow up together, and she is seduced by a priest who is Robert Pattinson, and she gets pregnant, and he kind of ignores it. He's like, I'm not going to deal with that. I'm a priest. This is all on you. And like she kills herself, but kind of accidentally. And then Tom Holland is, of course, angry, and he finds out about Robert Pattinson. So then he kills him, leaves his grandparents' house, and then gets caught up with this couple that was established all the way at the beginning, who are going around and killing people. They are artists. They like strip people down and take pictures with them and then kill them. And the woman in the couple,
Imagine like killing Joker with a Harley Quinn.
yeah,
It's essentially what that is.
Yeah, and then her brother is a sheriff who's corrupt, and they pick up Tom Holland.
And that's Winter Soldier.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
the guy in that couple is the main guy from Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
Oh yeah, that's where I knew him from. I kept trying to figure it out. I was racking my brain.
So that couple picks up Tom Holland. Tom Holland kind of gets wind of what's going to happen, so he kills them. Then the sheriff finds out, and he finds out what his sister and her husband were doing, and then he wants to cover it up because it's going to hurt his election chances for being the sheriff. So he decides, I'm going to cover this up, and then I'm going to go find Tom Holland and kill him. And he's also the person that picked up Tom Holland when his dad killed himself. And then the two of them fight, and Tom Holland wins, and that's the movie.
You make it sound like a fighting game.
I was trying to go with Triangle Man.
Triangle, yeah. They have a fight. Tom Holland wins. Tom Holland Man.
Tom Holland Man, exactly. But yes, that is the giant plot, and everyone that's in it, for the most part.
Yeah, that's the real truncated version. Of course, Austin's leaving out all of the really uncomfortable religious, I don't even want to say undertones, religious motivations for a lot of characters with this, although not everybody is motivated by something related to a deeply devout Southern Baptist faith. You have some characters that are misguided because of their faith, and then you have other characters that are taking advantage of people's faith, and then you have characters that are just psychotic.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you have characters that are just corrupt. I guess that's all the different motivations.
Yeah, I would say the two biggest themes in this movie are the corruption of power, specifically about religion, but not entirely.
Yeah, not explicitly. You're right.
Exactly, and just the cycles of tragedy and how like a lot of these things will carry on to the next generation.
Yeah, I spent a lot of the movie trying to decide if Tom Holland was the protagonist or not, and by the end of the movie, he absolutely is. And I think that's the reason that you actually need the non-linear structure at the beginning, because I questioned it. I get fixated real hard on, okay, we're non-linear. How necessary is that? Do we really need to do that? And I think, and the book does it too, apparently. And if the... And it's not a lot of nonlinear. It's kind of like Batman Begins, really, where it's like in the first act you jump around some, and then after that you have very little in the way of flashback. I think there's like one more later on where we cut back for a minute to show you something that is with some character, I forget who, that is now relevant that wasn't before. That's a piece of information that there's no way you would hang on to if we didn't give it to you now. And so
they do it with that woman that he was supposed to be with. When she has her daughter, when she leaves them with the grandparents.
Oh, yeah.
We cut back and we have that same scene played again but longer, and then you kind of go through her story.
Yeah, you're talking about the little girl that's raised as a stepsister with
Yeah, her mom's story.
with Tom Holland's character, and so the other part that Austin left out that's kind of important. I think I just didn't want to interrupt you when you were giving us that, but
there's so many things it's hard to remember.
Oh, no,
I should include.
Absolutely. But you have this kind of freaky preacher named Roy, who is delusional and thinks that he can resurrect people from the dead. And at first he thinks that, and this is actually a thing that people do. Like this still happens. You have the speaking in tongues thing, and then you have the prove that God is on your side, or prove your faith by putting dangerous animals on yourself and trusting that God will get you through it and that you won't get bit. Right. So you have this guy who was an arachnophobe, who at least. And I don't think he's unreliable. I think he probably was an arachnophobe. And
I think so too.
He says he was afraid of spiders, and he no longer has fear because he trusts in God. And and you just knew where this was going, by the way. He pulls out a jar and he's walking all around the church, and I was like, why is no one flinching? And then I thought, this is a Southern Baptist church in the mid-50s. They've all seen this before, right?
He's done it before.
Because I kept thinking, he's going to open that up and throw it on people. That's where I thought it was going. And then he dumps it on his face, and the spiders all get all over his face. And he believes that that God will protect him, and he gets bit by one of the spiders, and his face blows up real bad. And that in the movie version, apparently just makes him a little crazy. And he decides that based on the madness that he's developing from being bit by a spider, what I read from the book is better than this, by the way. He decides that he can resurrect people from the dead with the power of God, and so he goes up to his wife and he stabs her with a screwdriver and isn't able to resurrect her, shockingly. And so that's the reason that that Tom Holland's character Arvin has to be raised with the little girl who's Lenora. And by the way, that actress was wonderful.
Oh, she's really good. Yeah.
I thought she was spectacular. Anyway, I just wanted to put a point on that because his character seems like maybe he's a little bit of a bigger deal in the book, and is more of a supporting character than just a like, you get the ball rolling sort of character like he is in this. Like I said, he dies in the same way in the book, but it's later. I think it's even after. I don't know this because I haven't read it. I just read that synopsis. But I think maybe Roy in the book dies like even after Arvin has grown up.
Oh, weird.
Like, I think
just having the movie, like, I don't know how that would work.
Yeah, I think it's like in the 60s. Well, because I think he's on the run.
Yeah, that's what I imagine, because he'd have to be.
Back for some reason, but here, before he has a chance to even go on the run, he just gets murdered by these insane serial killers. So, I know what I was going to say. So, I don't like the spider bite thing as well. Especially after reading the way the book does it, because the idea is I don't know, this just resonates more with me because, and I don't want to get too personal with this, but I was raised for a period of time when I was a kid anyway, in a Southern Baptist church. It was not this kind of extreme, but I have dealt with some of this, particularly the like Bible thumping, like hell and brimstone kind of sermons, and the very strict like dancing is bad and don't go to the movie theater, and girls are supposed to wear skirts and culottes and not pants, and you know all that stuff. I grew up with that for a couple of years, and there was a little bit of I always felt like brainwashing that was happening with children, with this is all stuff I came to well after the fact. But I look back on it now and I'm like, there was a little bit of brainwashing. There was a little bit of like trying to get children and even adults to make big life decisions based on feelings you were trying to conjure in them during like tent revivals and things. And so this movie kind of hit close to home for me and brought all of that back. And in the book, it sounds a lot more realistic and to more of the experience I had in that world, where instead of the spider bite making him think that, and again, I never knew anybody that thought they could, perform miracles or anything like that. But there was a lot of, like God stirred your heart tonight and called you to do this, like life mission. And if from this point on you were to choose to not go into that profession, you're going against God, and that's bad. And that kind of thing. So I grew up with some of that. And anyway, in the book, it's this kind of gradual build where he starts as the preacher with the spiders, and then he starts to drink the Kool-Aid and believe in it too much. And I think the idea is he worries, and you heard this all the time in the Southern Baptist Church, and nothing against anybody that's Southern Baptist. There's they're not all crazy. But there was this there was this idea again, like the feelings in the moment were paramount, right? So, in the book, he has this moment where he decides that he is too far separated from God. That like he needs. There was always this word, like I said earlier, revival, that would come up in the Southern Baptist Church, and he needs to get closer to God again. And the way he's going to do that is like prove to God that he's worthy by killing his wife, and then God will bring her back from the dead, right? It's the I'm rusty, but it's the old Bible story with the man who God says to sacrifice his son, and that he almost kills him, and then God says, no, never mind. I trust you that you believe in me enough now. You don't have to kill your son. It's that whole thing, and that's way better than the spiders.
Yeah. So I've done like a lot of research on, for lack of a better word, crazy people that believe they can do mystical powers and miracle stuff.
Yeah.
And I think because of that, I was able to believe into it, that it was, this guy that kind of started doing it, and it started small, and then it became, you believe that it's real, which happens a lot to those people.
No, but that's what I mean, is I wanted it to be more of that. It seemed like it was too chemical in nature. I didn't need him to go crazy because he got bit by a spider.
Fair enough, and while watching it, I didn't think he just went crazy because of a spider. Like, I don't know, I thought it made sense in the movie, but...
Okay, I thought that's what they were getting at.
Mm-hmm. And it might just be that it, obviously has to be truncated down, so like maybe it just kind of comes off that way because of it. But that's not how I felt while watching it. I don't know.
And apologies if I took too long to explain all of that.
No, it's okay. But your speech is why you need to watch. Oh my God! Now I can't think of the name of it. Gosh, A Midnight Mass, because your speech is just that show.
Oh, interesting. I don't know if I want to.
It's that, but through a Stephen King lens. It's really great.
Somebody mentioned, let me tack this on real quick, earlier, that the movie that I might have been trying to remember earlier was Hacksaw Ridge, and I think I conflated two different movies.
Oh, okay, yeah, because that is the
Garfield.
Andrew Garfield war movie, but you did that as a request before we were doing it.
Yeah, and I think I had both of those things in mind.
Oh, okay.
Where it was that movie and then the religious movie.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. You kind of combine them because there's elements of both.
And those are both great movies, by the way. For folks that haven't seen them.
I still got to see Hacksaw Ridge. Everyone I've heard talk about it says it's like the greatest movie ever. But...
yeah, it's pretty incredible. And I don't like war movies, but it's fantastic. But anyway, there was a level of like true crime interest I had with this movie.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And I watch a not insignificant number of true crime like Netflix miniseries and movies and
Oh
things
no,
like
you're a
that.
sugar mom.
Yeah, I've gotten into those things the last few years. Well, and you know that I like documentaries a lot
Yeah,
and
of course. No,
biopics and
true
stuff, and
crime is a fun thing.
so that's gotten very interesting to me. And I think there was a time in my life where I would have found more of this unbelievable if I hadn't gone down that rabbit hole, where there are too many documentaries I've seen now where I'm like, I mean, this is so stranger than fiction. There's so many things that should not come together and be real life, and it feels like somebody must have written this down. And of course, that doesn't give you the excuse as the writer to just throw any crazy contrived stuff on a page and I'm supposed to buy it. But the coincidences in this movie didn't throw me the way they usually would. Like I bought into more of it than maybe I usually would, or maybe even I ought to. And I also didn't think that the the kills and the motivations and things were as over the top as maybe I would have 5 or 6 years ago. Like the stabbing the woman with a screwdriver, like I had a split second where I was like, I don't know, that's maybe a little much. And then I'm like, you got these two really tiny podunk isolated towns where people are clearly not getting out enough and are some of them way too obsessed with church and their own religion.
Mhm.
And I was buying it okay. I think it went just as far as it could get away with, though. You know what I mean? Like I think it hit 10 and it doesn't quite get to 11, but I was comfortable at 10 with the level of believability or realism. Do you agree with that? And did you find it to be a heightened reality, or a or because like it's stylized to a degree, but do you think that it's supposed to be over the top, or do you think it's supposed to feel more or less like a thing that really could happen?
Um, it's hard. It's hard to say because it kind of meets in the middle, I think. Because it definitely feels like a book that somebody wrote, but I also don't think it feels unrealistic. Like it kind of fits both. Like I think especially with how you have all of these separate characters that kind of move around and they get involved at different times, that especially makes it feel novel like. Um, and then obviously, I think the what's the word I'm looking for? It starts with a C. Coincidence stuff. I think play makes it also feel like real life in a weird way, and that sometimes just things happen.
Well, it's that rule that I always throw out because of course I'm the arbiter of everything narrative. That if you're going to build something on a series of coincidences, it's gotta be about the fact that there are coincidences, and it has to be aware of that. And that doesn't always even give you a pass. Like sometimes it feels like a crutch. It didn't with this really. It felt like the point was it's two small towns and they live in a very small world. And I'll tell you the coincidence that I least bought. And it's not the craziest coincidence in the movie. I mean, like, the craziest thing probably is that Tom Holland's character in the third act gets picked up by the same couple that murders, everybody stay with me here, that murders the father of the girl that will be raised with him as his stepsister. That should be a bridge too far. And it's a small enough area,
Mhm.
and he's hitchhiking and enough cars would drive by that wouldn't pick him up that I actually bought that. The
Yeah.
one that I less bought was the exact same day. Sorry, put a pin in that if you had a point.
Yeah.
The one I didn't buy as much is the exact same day as his dad, when he's a kid in '55, I think, decides to take him out to beat up the the kids that
that's the day that the cancer
have
kinda comes
have
in.
been mean to him and that were talking about going and harassing his mom and stuff. That's the same day that she collapses on the floor and we find out she has cancer. That was actually the coincidence I found too unbelievable.
That feels like one of those things that was truncated for a movie. I don't know if it is, but like that is one of those elements where you go, okay, you have to hit these two beats, and then you kind of merge them.
Yeah.
But with the car thing, I also think narratively, if you ended the movie right there, like he gets in the car, that is like the ultimate Twilight Zone ending.
Oh, do you think?
I think so, because you set up that like there's these killers. I mean, maybe not Twilight Zone, but like that kind of
You think
a
it's sort of O. Henry?
horror thing. Yeah, I think so.
Okay, is that because the whole movie you're like, why the hell is this couple even here? And then finally all the subplots converge.
Well, it's just like, oh, this girl, she lives with him because her dad was killed by these people.
Yeah.
And then he's like, okay, I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna make it for my own now. And then he gets in a car, and it's them. Boom. And obviously, I'm glad it doesn't end there. But I'm just saying, like narratively, I think that works too.
No, and that wouldn't work because you'd have too many loose ends, right? Like,
Yeah.
you have to pay off the sheriff.
Yeah. The post-credit scene is he doesn't get reelected.
The post credit scene is he doesn't get reelected and he goes to Wakanda.
Yeah, exactly.
Let me real quick complain about the lack of communication I think you have with the serial killers. So call me dense or naive or whatever. Maybe you didn't have this. Maybe nobody else on the planet had this. I didn't understand they were serial killers until like the end of the second act or the beginning of the third act. I did not understand what was going on there. I thought it was somehow some kind of really weird, shady business where occasionally they had to kill people that wouldn't cooperate. I was very confused as to what was going on with them because the way we're introduced to them is. And I mean, the whole thing is messed up and disturbing regardless, but it's way worse when I finally found out they were serial killers, when you get the one creepy flash of the naked guy all drenched in blood, and I'm like, oh, they're serial killers! Because the way it's established is they pick up Roy on the highway, and they take him out for like a picnic, and like they say that he's a hitchhiker, and Roy's a hitchhiker,
okay,
and they're at first just saying that they're gonna like help him get to where they're going, but then they're like, hey, let's stop and eat or whatever, and then they try to get him to have sex with the photographer's wife, and they're going to take pictures while that happens, and he does it at gunpoint. And I was like, I don't really understand what the business is here. I thought it was some kind of pornography ring or something. And I was confused by the term model, because the voiceover says, well, he was going to be really careful after this about what kind of models he picks up and make sure that they're young enough and all of that. And I thought he was talking about the girl. Like, I thought that she was maybe not actually married to him, and that he was finding models that were willing to have sex with random guys, and maybe she didn't even know the gun was loaded or something and was willing to do that. And then he needed to get some other girl after that. That's what I thought was going on. And then I was very surprised when we jumped forward a decade and she is older and bloated and has messed up teeth, and that whole thing was... I mean, I guess she's a horrible human being, but that whole thing was really kind of sad. Anyway.
Yeah, I didn't have that, but in your defense, that is one of those plots where I think you fully grasp what's going on with that a second time. Like, it's easy to get lost in the weeds with some of that.
Yeah. No, I'm
like I said,
dumb. It's fine.
I'm being nice. I'm being nice.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
It's one of those things, though, where it's easy to go, okay, like, I don't understand why this is even here.
Well, I think the reason I was confused was because if you don't make it a lot more clear that she's as crazed as he is, or that it's like a Bonnie Clyde thing, or whatever it is. I'm not thinking double serial. How often do you see double serial killers? Like it happens, and it happens in real life, and it's very often like this is sadly believable. This kind of thing does and has happened, because I've watched some true crime things, and I and I know about that, but I didn't realize that's what we were looking at first. Because I can't think of a lot of movies that I've seen do that.
No, that is true. They are very Bonnie and Clyde serial killery. That is very much their role.
Because clearly he's the one that really gets off on it, and she's just kind of tolerated it all these years, where maybe there was some part of her where it was fun early on for some reason. We don't really know anything about her.
Yeah, I think the idea is that it was fun for her early on, and then she just got tired of it over the years.
Well, I don't think she's just tired of it. I think she's worried they're going to get caught.
Yeah, knowing that too.
And just doesn't like him anymore. Which is fair.
Yeah, which is very fair.
Did you want some of those characters to be more developed?
I didn't have it in the moment. I don't know. I feel like everyone was developed pretty well.
She was really the only one I questioned, where I was just... It's not even a criticism so much as just I was so curious to know, like, how she...
some layers pulled back a little bit.
Yeah, like how she wound up with him and why she would go along with all of that. I thought Willard was wonderfully well developed.
Oh, yeah. No, and everything with him is incredibly tragic and works really well. And so I was worried going into it that like some of the stuff was going to hit really hard, like with the dog and whatnot. And then watching it, I was like, no, it's really sad, but like I can understand his thought process, even though obviously I think it's wrong.
Yeah.
But like it kind of eases me into it a little bit more than just being like, okay, you're just showing me dark things to be dark, right?
And that's what I was worried it was too. And I think, again, it goes right up to the line. And if it went any farther than that, like it's up to 10 with that too, of what feels like, sensationally dark and rough and tumble and tragic. Sometimes it feels like maybe just for the sake of it, but I don't think ultimately it is. I don't know, like.
Well, I think with that specifically, like.
Yeah.
Like I just feel really sad for that character too, where like that we're even in this place.
I guess what I'm saying is it's sad that with this movie he's one of the best people.
Question mark maybe.
You know what I mean? Oh no, he certainly is. When you put him up against,
well, the best people are Ma and Pa Kent, but
yeah, but they get no screen time.
That is true. That's why they're the best people.
Yeah, but they just facilitate the plot. As far as the characters that actually like make anything happen, that move things, the actions and consequences. The best character in the whole film is Tom Holland, and the first person he kills is not in self-defense.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you how you felt about that also. Like, do you think? And of course, I don't want to rewrite the movie. But you've got, and I don't know how the book did that part of it, but when you've got a guy who it seems like the whole world has been, coming down on him real hard, and he hasn't had any kind of break. He definitely has, the Parker Luck kind of thing, and if you ignore the thing with Pattinson's pastor. And you just look at everything else that he does through the movie, he kills 2 people completely in self-defense. Like,
3 people.
3 people, yeah. You can't, but 2 instances of killing in self-defense. Sure. With the serial killers, both of them, that's true. But in both of those situations, I think undeniably he had no other choice. There's not anything else you could do with both with them and with Sebastian Stan at the end with the cop, right?
Yeah, no, he's completely locked into the situation, and that's it. That's the only way out.
And there's, of course, some really interesting like nurture stuff where he's a product of his father's upbringing. His father taught him how to be tough and how to like pick his battles and when to pick his battles, and all of that's really interesting. So he does some things that you wouldn't necessarily condone depending on, your own values and upbringing, but you understand what his personal like code of ethics is. So like when he goes and beats the kids that hurt his sister to like within an inch of their life, I'm not saying that's what I would do, but I have a hard time really judging him too much for that. But then when he kills a man in cold blood, and that's the first kill he has, I'm just not sure if that's how I would have written that.
Mm-hmm. Well, what I like about
But like, I don't want to rewrite it. I wanted to talk it out with you because I can't decide how I feel about it.
what I like about that is that both of these things are connected in that that doesn't like Tom Holland doesn't kill that guy if he doesn't assault those bullies, because the whole reason his sister gets with Robert Pattinson is because he leaves her at the cemetery to go deal with that, and then that's when the two of them link up. So there's almost like he did something irresponsible, and then it led to this bad thing, and then it kind of just furthers this kind of tragedy, right?
Okay, I'm wondering if I missed something in the plotting of it. Break that down one more time.
So Tom Holland brings the sister.
So you're saying somehow Tom Holland is to be blamed for what happens with the pastor, or pardon me, with the preacher?
To a degree, like he's obviously still doing bad things.
Yeah.
But, Tom Holland drops the sister off every day to the cemetery and then drives her back home. And that specific time, he drops her off and then leaves to go beat up those bullies. And then she's at the cemetery and she hooks up with Robert Pattinson. And then she tells him not to pick her up anymore. She'll just make her own way home. So
yeah. And so you're saying he should have investigated that further.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like but
he's very indirectly responsible for that, obviously.
No, of course. But I just think it's interesting that they are connected in that way, and that.
But you're saying that's almost like a Spider-Man level actions and consequences kind of thing.
Yeah, like it's almost like an Uncle Ben situation.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's interesting. And I'm not saying that he's a perfect and not flawed person, besides the fact that he kills that pastor. It's just. You can
just wonder if that was too far.
Well, I just don't know. I mean, you can. I don't think it is for the story that's being told, but I can't decide exactly what it's getting at with it, because with everything else it does, like I guess what I'm trying to make is he's not a vigilante. He's not about revenge, except for with that one thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it makes sense because it's one of the only things that he has in his life, right? And not only did it happen, but he is watching Robert Pattinson doing it with other girls. Like it's going to be a cycle where this will probably keep happening, and he just won't be punished for it.
Yeah, I kind of wish they'd brought what you're talking about, like the indirect way that he might be responsible, further to the fore. Because what I kept thinking was, this is a guy raised by a man who ultimately commits suicide because of what he can't control in his own life, right? He can't deal with the fact that his wife is dying of cancer and there's nothing he can do about it, and he pours everything into praying. He puts everything on his God, his religion, and when that doesn't work, he kills himself. But his son, who again raised to be very independent, and besides that, he's supposed to pray to God to fix everything, but like raised to solve his own problems, right? No, you go out there and you knock sense into those bullies. He comes in to stand up to his father and say, "I'm not doing this anymore." And then his father is tragically killed himself. Another coincidence I'm okay with. That's a moment that really plays, and that I thought was really kind of awful and sad. But I guess the point I'm making is
it helps that it's set up earlier too, with that specifically, where he's like, "I'm going to take you up to grandma's and you can stay there for a bit." And you don't realize it in the moment, but he's taking him there to drop him off and kill himself. And then Tom Holland's like, "No, I'm not having any of that. Yeah. I'm just going to go in my room and hang out." And the dad's like, "Well, I'm just going to do it then." So I think that works too for the coincidence.
But what I'm with you. What I'm trying to get at is he, and I'm losing my train of thought with it, so I got to hurry up and get there. Um, what I where I was going with that is, if he is like indirectly responsible for what happens with his sister. And first of all, I don't know if he's thinking about it like that. I don't know if he feels guilty about it, but that's a thing that he can't control now because she has died. And whether he feels responsible for it, like he caused it, like whether he blames himself for it, it's a place where he's failed. He couldn't stop it from happening, right? And so I guess all he has after that is revenge, and then beyond that, he makes sure that he controls in his life what he can control, I guess.
Hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. I really like the end moment too. Oh, it's after he's killed the sheriff, so it's like right near the end.
Yeah.
Where he's got that moment where it kind of breaks down why everyone he killed is a bad person, and he's got that moment where he goes, "Will people look at what I did and say I was ultimately right? Like, is there a chance I can go back to my life because of that?"
Yeah. And maybe he
Probably
could.
not.
He decides
Mhm.
not to try.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
But maybe he could. I mean, do you think it's a situation where it's kind of letting you just make up your own mind about, even the extreme way he handled things? They were extreme situations, right? Like,
Mhm.
like how much? Okay, is this a revenge thriller or not? I guess is the big question I'm asking you. Is it that cathartic thing where maybe that's not what we would do, but for the sake of the fiction, you get to the end and there's a part of you that does kind of condone some of the things he does? Because I mean, I'm not altogether broken up about the fact that he does kill that preacher, because I mean, he certainly, again, in the fiction, kind of deserved it. But I
Mhm.
mean, he walks in and initially he's a little sadistic about it. Like, I don't even know if sadistic is the right word, but like he needs that preacher to know that he knows what he's been up to before he kills him. Because he
Mhm.
walks into that church and he's got the gun at his head and he holds it there for 10, 15 seconds, and the preacher doesn't even know that he's there. And then
Mhm.
he puts the gun away
It's
and
that
then,
I want to let you know how you broke me
yeah, and
before
then
I
that's
end
it.
you.
And then
Yeah.
he pretends like he's confessing.
Mhm. Yeah, no, exactly. So I don't think overall it's a revenge thriller, but that section certainly is. So it's like a
Yeah.
more complicated question, I guess.
No, it is. And that's why I'm conflicted, because I actually really like that about it. I like that it's not, it feels more real in that
Mhm.
way. You know what I mean? Like it is exploring its ideas in a thought-provoking way, but it isn't neat and tidy about it. It's not just let's use these situations as a stand-in for morality play. It's doing what I always say that a lot of the best fiction does. Obviously, there's different kinds of fiction, right? There is the morality play, but this is putting its characters and its story and its plotting first, and it's putting its themes absolutely second. This feels like the kind of story that a guy sat down and wrote and then drew what it was about out in revision,
Hmm.
as
Yeah,
opposed to
I can
saying
definitely see
I'm
that.
I'm gonna write a story about why extreme religion is bad. It doesn't actually feel like a story that's about that, but it's in there.
Hmm. Yeah, no, exactly. And then I think obviously like you nail down all these characters and you start to realize um, the kind of cycles of things and how they come out and how they kind of relate to each other and how the mom of Lenora, the little girl that's killed
Yeah,
by or that kills herself,
yeah,
like how they're connected and how Tom Holland's connected to his father and all of that.
yeah. I mean, it's not an anti-religion film.
Hmm.
You
Like I
know,
said, I feel like
it's
it's
not
more.
saying it's not saying that's bad. I mean, the only thing it's anti is doing horrible things to people, right? Like it's an
Yeah.
anti-serial killer film. I don't know. If you got serial killers in your movie, you're probably an anti-serial killer film. You know what I mean? Like I'm just saying it's not preachy about anything, and it doesn't seem to have like. I feel like this is one of those Simpsons episodes where you get to the end and every member of the Simpsons family has a different explanation for what the moral is.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I don't think it's anti-religion. I think it's just anti-power and just how that what that does to people. And I think the
And
sheriff
extremism.
and extremism. And I think the sheriff helps it not feel like it's just a Saturday morning cartoon lesson about religion.
You mean
Where you
because
see like,
he's also corrupt and terrible?
yeah, it's because you see it from a different lens, where it's like it's not just religious people.
No,
Like
you get political
these people
corruption and
exist.
well,
Yeah.
and also the best people in the movie are also religious.
Hmm. No, that's true too. Yeah.
So it doesn't feel like we're taking any particular group and throwing them under the bus. It's very refreshing, right? Like this is how stories are told.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Nice to see that in 2020. It's
that's
not
the
simple.
thing. And that's the thing that show Midnight Mass has as well, where it's very anti-religion. I think the creator's point of view, but the story isn't. Like
Yeah.
it's super balanced and just is about people.
The only reason I was conflicted about it is because again Tom Holland is almost a hero in this.
Hmm.
Although you had a view I hadn't thought of where he's maybe even more complicated than them.
Hmm. Yeah, well, yeah, I think at the very end, like all of these characters are complicated,
Yeah.
if not fully good.
But I mean, like, I hadn't thought about that he's too wrapped up in his own stuff to realize that his sister's being taken advantage of. Why, like, you gotta pause and think about that. Why does she want to not be picked up every day now?
Hmm.
She's out at a cemetery by herself.
Yeah, no, exactly.
No, that's a really good point. I hadn't put that together.
Hmm. Also,
you got to see it twice.
yeah, no, exactly. Also, while we're here, I just want to throw out that Pattinson is like one of the best actors working right now. I don't know what he's doing with his voice, but if I close my eyes, I couldn't tell you that that's Pattinson.
Yeah, I agree. Just you know what he looks like, so you can tell it's him.
But... yeah, he's got a very distinct look, but like I have no idea what he's doing with his voice in this, but it's awesome.
What's the timeline with his films? Because I know Lighthouse comes out somewhere around there. Is this the very...
That's the year before.
So this is the very next thing he does after that, and then I guess the Batman would have to be right after that. Or is there something even in between?
There might be something smaller in between that I'm not sure about, but yeah, that is the timeline. Is the Lighthouse, and then this, and then the Batman.
People will think I'm crazy. I think I like this a tad better than the Lighthouse.
Yeah,
because the end of that movie didn't quite come together for me. But I've only seen it the one time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean they're movies that I both really like that are really hard to compare. So
yeah, absolutely.
I can't argue with that.
That's also a movie with two major veteran comic book actors.
That is true. And then well, it's especially funny because one's Batman and one is not the Joker, but has always been fan casted as the Joker.
Yeah.
So that's fun.
Let me tack this point on real quick too.
Yeah.
For anybody that will care, one of the reasons I want to read the novel is because I feel like it must have a better grasp on the Southern Baptist Church, like I was talking about, or what feels like Southern Baptist. It might technically be a different denomination, but it effectively is that. But I was questioning as I was watching it why the pastors are all referred to as preacher and not brother, because in that denomination, usually everybody behind a pulpit is brother whomever. And I was like, well, this seems a little bit inaccurate, but maybe I'm not getting what the denomination is. And then I looked at the synopsis for the book, and it's all brother in the book.
Oh, okay. So that might just be something where they simplified it for us dummies that don't know anything about it.
That haven't been there, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it
just... I wouldn't have known the brother thing. Like I don't know enough about the different denominations, so that's being made for me. It did not make me feel stupid.
but that's why I want to read the book, because I feel like in some ways that's actually kind of written for me because I was there.
Yeah, definitely.
So anyway, Jareth Gearhart, did you review The Lighthouse? No, I have not. It is on the ReQuest list, I think. So I think we are going to have to do that at some point. But
have I shown you my awesome Lighthouse copy that I got from A24?
I think you did release. Show me that.
I think I did, yeah. But it's like a whole
Didn't they have like a big fold out?
Yes, I think so, yeah. It's like a little book, and I think it's got a big fold out.
I don't think I like that movie enough to buy that. But I do think that's pretty cool. I'll watch it again and see if I like it a little bit better the second time around.
I just really like that director. I'm so excited for his Nosferatu movie.
I mean, it's
next
an
year.
awesome looking movie. We haven't talked enough about the visual style and the directing and stuff with this, but I thought it was inspired. Like, my favorite thing about this is it's not remotely rose-tinted glasses 50s and 60s, right? Like, it's not at all an idealized 50s and 60s.
It's very dirty.
And it feels like what the world might have been like then, where a lot of people are trying to pretend like they live in the wholesome world that you see in, you know, sitcoms on television, but that's not actually the world they live in, and it's rougher and dirtier, and not everybody is nice to each other. But I thought that the language was really authentic. Besides later on the sheer number of F-bombs you have, I always wonder about that with things like this, where that's become so popular in, you know, like darker adult stuff now, that I'm like, even in 65, I don't think people were throwing that word around as much as they are in this movie, maybe. But
yeah, I'm not sure.
Minor complaint, I don't know. I've gotten very sensitive to that.
That's a big debate about that HBO show Deadwood, where it's like a Western and they use the F word constantly, and it's like been a big debate.
Takes you out.
I don't know. I'm whatever on it, but
yeah,
that's been like a big debate between different historical people about whether that's accurate or not. And some people say it is, some say it's not. So I never know where to fall on that.
But what I really appreciated was, you see, at least for a small town, because you don't have really any super wealthy people in this movie, but you see for middle class and poor people, every kind of living that you would have during this period. In the first act, I have to keep reminding myself that in places anyway, besides like when we go to the diner and when we're in cars and stuff, that it's the 1950s and it's not the 1920s or 30s, because we're with people that live in houses where I can't even tell if they have electricity and running water. And I thought that was wonderfully authentic.
Yeah, definitely.
Really surprised by that.
Yeah, and I guess I hadn't really had that thought, but I guess it's good that they have that flashback to the war then, just to really set that, like, no, this is the exact point.
Yeah,
where it is.
Nobody's got a TV. Yeah, it's during a period of time where televisions would have been very, very expensive. Not as much in the mid '60s, but you got poor people living in, you know, the South.
Well, yeah, and there's that specific moment where they have the potluck at the church, and Tom Holland's family can only afford to bring in chicken livers.
Yeah,
and you have that whole speech that Pattinson has about
what a great way to introduce how awful that guy is.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
That was an excellent character introduction. Like, you can tell how skeezy he is from the beginning. But you also kind of buy some of the, you know, simple-minded idiot townspeople buying into it too.
Well, because it's like empty platitudes with a judgmental edge to it, right?
Yeah, and the problem is that, like, that's technically that guy's job, and then you have to decide if you really believe he's called by God or not. You see how somebody might take advantage of that? You see how a lot of people might take advantage of that?
Yeah, no, exactly.
I bought everything that guy did.
No.
I'm sorry to say.
Yeah, Pattinson's got such a small role, but it's perfect.
Yeah, but it's very memorable.
No, exactly. It's just, everything about it's perfect.
We're at an hour. What else haven't we discussed that we probably should? I'm sure I took us on tangents that made us take too long on certain points and not hit things we should have talked about.
I'm trying to think about things we haven't talked about. I guess we haven't talked about Sebastian Stan. How did you like him in this movie?
I thought he was serviceable. I thought, like, I don't even think he's the weak link or anything. He's just, like, on the page, I didn't find him to be an especially compelling character. He felt like the story just really needed him. So like, he was probably the most typical thing in the movie, honestly.
Yeah, I can see that.
And like Stan played him fine, but like I didn't find him especially fresh or new. Like he's
Mm.
just the corrupt cop that will do anything he can to keep his name from being tarnished because he's trying to run for re-election or whatever. And I thought the scene with the boss guy was almost a cartoon.
Yeah, that's fair. But the way you describe it, and I feel like we're a bunch of weird normies because everything we've talked about we compare to a superhero movie, but um, he's almost, by what you're describing, like the Katie Holmes of this movie, where it's not that he's bad, it's just that like everybody else is like up here, and
Yeah.
then he's just kind of like, yeah, he's good, but his
Oh, okay.
character's not as
I
interesting.
thought you were gonna say like I don't know what you're talking about. He's amazing in this, and I'm like I don't think he is. I think he's fine.
Yeah, no, I think he's good in this movie, but I do agree that I think he's the least interesting
But
character.
it's not his fault. I don't think
Yeah, no,
he
I
gets
don't
the
think.
least interesting things to do of the depraved, horrible maniac characters.
Mhm.
He just doesn't get to have as much fun as a maniac. And I mean, he does get to, like take literal pot shots at Tom Holland in the woods at the end and
Mhm.
all of that. But like when it comes down to uh, to a standoff between them and the woods, I'm like, we're just tying up loose ends at this point. Like Tom Holland's gonna get away, I'm sure. If he gets killed by this guy, that's a lame ending. You know.
Yeah, no, that's
I
fair.
don't want to say I was totally out by that point because it's an unpredictable enough story. I didn't really know where it was going to go.
Mhm.
But when he just gets in a car with somebody who seems trustworthy finally at the end, I was like, I mean, I don't know how else I would end this movie. Apparently, the book just has him walking down the highway thinking, now maybe my life will be better, like now he's finally got some hope. I guess that's how this ends. He's just in a car.
Yeah, when I like there's that, and this is something that I guess the book probably won't have if he's 15, unless like time goes by more. But with him being 18, I like that it's very subtle, but I like in terms of that cycle that I was talking about.
Yeah.
I like that he's 18 right when Vietnam is starting. Maybe not starting, but like we're like in Vietnam at this point.
I
Well,
think
you
it
have
is
that.
kind of right at the start of Vietnam, is it not?
That's what I thought, but I was like I should maybe backtrack that in case I'm wrong. But then obviously like his dad fought in World War II, so I like that connection.
Yeah. Do you have a read on why we're at the the cross the father built at the end of the movie? Besides just kind of cleanly bookending it.
I think it's just an important symbol, both for the story and for this character that's passed down from his father, and that this entire cycle of tragedy and violence that starts with his father starts because he was traumatized by this cross that he saw in the war,
Yeah.
and then he rebuilds it at home. So I think that's why it's there.
Yeah. Because he doesn't really curiously he doesn't make any kind of sacrifices like his father does. He does. I guess he does like necessary kills like his dad felt like he did just to put that guy out of his misery during the war.
Hmm.
But it's not the same thing as like the dog. I feel like he's trying to move in a weird way, like move past his father and be better than his father. Maybe I don't know. I need to give it another watch.
Hmm.
I'm not totally sure how I'm reading that that symbol at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think he's got like an idealized version of his father because he talks about how his best moment with his dad is that moment where his dad teaches him to beat up people.
That's true. Maybe I have the wrong read on that because I keep thinking that he's both kind of looking up to his father and trying to be better than him. But maybe I'm off on that.
Yeah, I think it's probably just he's looking up to his father, but in his mind he has a better view of his father. So it's like you're not wrong, but it's like just slightly different, I think.
Yeah, because he takes again that big lesson that his father taught him with going and taking care of the bullies, and
Mhm.
he's even harsher than his dad was. Like
Yeah.
like when he takes the car hood.
Yeah,
Oh my god! Oh
yeah,
my
he's got the
god!
wrench, and I don't think I fully realized how short Tom Holland was until seeing that scene.
But he clearly, I don't know if he resented his father, but he clearly wasn't okay with what happened with the dog, and he never seemed to really buy into the praying. I mean, it didn't do anything, right?
Mhm.
So, I mean, there is that question, right?
That is
Like,
true. Yeah, he definitely sees his father as being wrong with that.
yeah. And that's why I think the cross is such an interesting symbol because, and also, like, he kills a guy in a church
Mhm.
and a guy who used the church to get what he wanted from his sister. Like, could we go as far as to say that Tom Holland's character maybe doesn't even really believe in God? I guess I don't know. I think it's ambiguous about that.
Yeah, that's the sense that I got while watching it
I
because
didn't even think about that until now.
he's very dismissive, like his father is of the church. But then obviously his father has that shift where he goes back to it once he's married, and then that's when
Yeah.
he builds the cross in his backyard.
Yeah, and like the cross takes him away from his faith and then brings him back to it
Yeah, exactly.
because he maybe loses his belief when he sees the guy in the war, which is
Mhm.
a horrendous image.
Oh yeah. Well, and then you have the dog on the cross later, which is like
Yeah.
insane. Well, and then another big thing that we haven't mentioned that probably plays into this image by the end is that when he goes back to his church, I don't know if it is exactly because it's not specified, but when he buries his gun, he buries it with a dog's skull. And I think the idea is supposed
Oh,
to be
I
that his
forgot about that.
dog's skeleton was still there, and he buried both his dog, which he said he was going to do as a kid, and the only thing he got from his dad with the cross.
Interesting. But I thought that was the gun he was using at the end.
It is. That's the like one of the last scenes. Like,
Okay.
he shoots the sheriff and then buries it.
And then he buries it. I see what you're saying. I thought you
Which is a
meant.
good thing he buried it.
I thought
After
you
he
meant the
shot
preacher.
sheriff. No.
What does he do with
Sure.
the preacher's body?
He leaves it.
He just leaves it in the church?
Yeah, no, he leaves it.
Oh,
and
that's
he
right,
leaves
because
the door of the church open.
that's right, because we see them investigating it
Mhm. I also like that just
in a
realistic
montage.
moment where he shoots them and then tries to pull up the shells, but they're really hot. That's one of those just like believable moments.
Yeah, that's cool. Just attention to detail. I didn't catch
Exactly.
that. Yeah. Well, anyway, I'm just spinning my wheels at this point, but I only got one viewing of this, and it's it's kind of dense
Yeah,
idea
of
wise.
course.
So I wanted to try to figure out what exactly that meant at the end. But anyway, I think at the end, I mean, it's a good movie.
Hmm. Yeah, this would I think would definitely make my wall of fame for ReQuest movies. I think
I need to watch it
not
one
that
more.
we can own it because it's on Netflix.
It's on Netflix.
But
I need to watch it one more time before I can decide if it's a Hall of Fame movie. But I think it's close.
yeah, no, and that's fair. This can be your next father and son discussion video.
No, that's not going to happen. Anyway, everybody, thanks a lot for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. If you've seen this movie, let us know, and hopefully you have if you listened this far, because we talked about everything. Let us know what you thought of it. And next time, Austin, we're going to be doing a movie that I've not looked up. I've heard of this. I don't know what it is. I think it's also a more recent thing, isn't it? Doolittle asked us to talk about Millennium Actress.
I've never even heard of that.
Okay.
Millennium Actress?
Millennium Actress. Yeah, I don't know what this is. Hold on. 2001. This is... Oh, you know what? Now that I'm looking at it, this is an anime film.
Oh, okay. That's a
Uh,
little funny considering what day this movie came out in the theaters, but yeah.
yeah. Oh, I'm sure that's probably why. I was trying to see if this was like a Miyazaki thing or something, but it's not. It's Satoshi Kon, who I feel like I've heard of, but I just don't know my anime stuff well enough. Oh,
Yeah, it's not ringing a
yes,
bell.
no, that's Perfect Blue.
Oh, okay.
We're doing
Oh, cool.
we're doing the film he made right after Perfect Blue, and Perfect Blue's in your top 10. So,
No, I love that movie. It was great.
well, and it would be mine too. I
was
just
gonna go
haven't
see
made
it in
my.
the theater
I haven't
here.
ranked my list yet in a long or in a long time. But I'm sorry, what was it?
They were playing it in the theater here, and I was like, heck yeah, I'm gonna go see it. And then later on in the day, I was like, I'm tired. I'm gonna go see it tomorrow. And then I looked it up the next day, and it wasn't in the theater anymore.
Ah, that
I was
sucks.
so sad.
Yeah, we're getting it in October, so I'm gonna try to go.
Mhm. I hope it comes back.
Daniverse says it's a masterpiece. No, I'm stoked for that because we adored his other film
Hmm
that we
Yeah,
saw.
no, I'm really excited for that now.
Yep, I'm sure that'll be great. I really want to watch Perfect Blue again. That is a neat movie.
Yeah, the movie's super cool.
Also a little disturbing,
Yeah,
but more entertaining than
like
what we
all
just.
good movies are.
I guess. More entertaining than what we just watched. I think.
Probably, yeah. I would say Perfect Blue is a better movie than Devil All the Time.
Well, I don't even. Yeah, I mean, I think it is better, but I was saying like, which one would I actually is like fun to watch for more disturbing things?
Yeah.
Like, it's more entertaining. Like,
Yeah. That's
folks,
just more like visually striking 'cause it's animated.
if that's true too, if you are interested in making a request, go to patreon.com/geekvolution. The $15 tier makes that possible. You can ask for a movie or a miniseries for comics or an arc. And if you ask for a TV pilot at this point, if it is a more like adult thing that Jason can't watch, Austin and I will do it, and otherwise we'll do it on the pilot show, which we just started. That'll let us double up on these every now and again, and of course, Austin, we'll bring you in on those too when you're able to do them. But I figure we're doing a show on pilots, so we might as well take some requests over there.
Yeah, I'm contemplating about it with House because I'm like,
Yeah.
because that's a show I know really well, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't know if I'm more interested to watch the two of you try to figure it out.
Well, it's up to you, and I'm not sure when we're shooting it yet, but
Yeah, no, for sure.
anyway, thanks again for watching, folks. We'll see you again real soon. Captain Logan Show tomorrow night. Friday night, Austin and I are going to do a blind commentary on all of Secret Invasion. Yeah,
I had to stop you before you said Secret Wars by accident.
No, I would have said I would have gotten it, but
Okay.
it takes me a minute because there's so many like secret things and war things, and yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
I would have gotten there. I only froze up because I knew you were gonna not think that I was gonna get it.
I feel like I've watched like a few older videos now from that time when they announced it. We were like, oh, they're making a Secret Wars show.
I probably did say that.
So I was like, uh-oh, I better help them.
Anyway, thanks again, folks. We'll see you again real soon. I was Captain Logan, and this was Austin, the Day Ghost.
Bye, everybody. We're way too upbeat for the ending of this, by the way.
Oh, that's
Bye,
true.
everybody.
See you, folks.
I lost my tail again.
Bye.